Got it. And this is a good machine to use. So, welcome to the weekend wrap for Timeline of Success. I could barely talk today. And Glen and Bill Conrad are here. This is behind the scenes. We're about to create the podcast. Glen, anything up before we go on the podcast?
Hey everyone, welcome to the weekend wrap. We've got some exciting stuff we're going to be talking about today.
Yep. Well, it's we're still on the Google Hangout, just doing the audio or doing the film for the webpage. So the podcast, which actually is heard from more people, is the reason why podcasts are listened to more than even these is because people listen to them while they're driving, cutting the lawn, running, jogging. That's why more people listen to the entire podcast. So I just set my sound up on my Roland, which is what we use today for the actual podcast. It's using the backup system, and then we've got the Google Plus Hangout, so you guys can see. That picture right now is showing a big screen for you. Let's move this around.
It's okay. I'll hide behind the.
You're hiding. Glen is hiding today.
That's okay.
Glen is hiding today. Are you still hiding? Are you still hiding? You gotta see your face and your eyes. You look different in here. We're actually doing this from my house instead of the Reno Collective. We're just experimenting. You can see this is my guest bedroom. If you saw all my kit here, it's actually somewhat impressive, all the equipment. But it doesn't look too good behind us. I just noticed that.
Well, this is really about people to hear us, not so much to see us today.
Well, people love, people will listen to us. They'll come back. They'll go on timelineofsuccess.com or wherever you're building a site right now, so we can come and look at that site.
Yeah.
It's not quite ready for prime time, though, is it?
Not ready for prime time.
We should build just a basic blog shoot site. Just come and look at it.
Exactly.
And connect. It doesn't have to be fancy. One thing before we go on the show about WordPress sites. If you look at Drudge, he's very successful, and his site's not pretty.
You don't have to be pretty. It's about some basic things that you need in there, and actually, squeeze pages, for example. So now, for those listening who don't know what a squeeze page is, that's a lead capture page, somewhere where you're capturing someone's email address so that they become one of your subscribers.
Right.
In testing, we found that the more fancy they are, the less they convert. The more basic they are, the better they convert. You know what converts the best? That plain white background that looks like a GoToMeeting registration page. That converts better than something with a fancy video and bells and whistles and pops and all kinds of things.
I believe you. It's funny. Glen is getting to be, or is the expert on the squeeze page. And by the way, you only get this information if you go to our websites and watch this video. You won't get this on the podcast today. So this is behind the scenes talking about some of the skill sets. And the lead page is important. We started a new show this week. It's not behind the scenes. We talked about coaching. Every week we're going to talk about one specific element that is key to running your own business, whether you're a solopreneur or entrepreneur. So about that coaching, just a little rehab. That was Saturday's show, which is, we can look at it even. It will be, actually it'll be tomorrow's show. We do this on Friday. We're doing Friday this week. So tomorrow's show, which will be 42, will be our special show on coaching.
Well, coaching and mentoring and what that brings to the table for an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, someone that's trying something different. From my perspective is I totally understand people are very hesitant to part with their money. But you end up spending more money when you don't get help than when you do get help. So spending money, shortening your learning curve, and getting the results that you want is so worth it.
Right, and we went into detail about coaching, and the area I thought about after we did this, I thought a while. But for me, it's important. You have to have the coaching, but you also have to put the time to study. You still have to learn some skill sets.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to be willing to take action. And we speak about that just about every single week in this weekend wrap. Taking action is such a common theme that comes through, and not being afraid of failure. And today, that's going to be another big focus on what people have said in this last week. So, but having a coach and a mentor is going to put it all in perspective for you. Number one, what kind of action should I take? Number two, when I get results that I didn't expect. Now, notice the words I use there. I said, get results I didn't expect. I don't say it was a failure. Because you take action and the results, you get some feedback. It's not what I expected. I need to make some adjustment here. Your coach and your mentor are going to be so critical in helping you understand that that's not a failure. It's purely feedback. and you just need to make some adjustments and take new action.
Right. Very good. So this is what you get behind the scenes. We're going to mention this on the podcast. Go to our sites and I can get this information. So let me put that on. That's the podcast backup actually going. It's because this is going to podcast now. And so welcome to the Weekend Wrap. This is Bill Conrad and Glen Fichardt.
Hey, Bill. Welcome to the weekend, everyone.
We are up on the weekend. We had another good week. We're up to episode 41 is just finishing up on Friday. So driving through, and the site is growing bigger and bigger every day with more people downloading and watching and more people coming back and hopefully, and not hopefully, but I know getting good information. So Glen's going to be the analyst this week. He broke it up. He did I would say a vision map of some sort. What's a good name for that?
Yeah, it's not really a mind map, but it's kind of like a mind map where we took these 5 people that were interviewed Monday through Friday this last week, and it's like, what are the common themes? What's going on? So I guess I'll kick off here and I'll describe the 5 people that came on to the show. And if you didn't listen to each of these 5, it's going to bring you up to speed of where we were. So the first person there was Darren Drake, who's a deputy coroner, a deputy sheriff, and then he's also a podcaster. So he's out there spreading a message on the internet about life and leadership. The second person was Erin, is that Helfert?
Helfert, you said it right. It's a Bohemian name, German Bohemian.
Okay, and she's kind of into international business, traveling around the world, doing all kinds of interesting things. And there were some great things that came out of her interview. And then number 3 was Anthony Centino, who has a message about men's style that he spreads out on the internet. And then next was Coach Chris.
Kletch. He actually just goes by Coach Chris. That's his branding name.
So Coach Chris also spreads a message on the internet about travel and eating and how you can do that really cheaply. So he spreads that message out on the internet. And then finally we had Joshua Rivers, who spreads a message about having a quality life on the internet. Now, what people can see is 4 of the 5 people interviewed this last week have a message that they put out through some form on the internet. Some people are podcasting, some people have products, whatever they're doing. But it reminds me of what we spoke about last week. Well, you might remember we spoke about that every single person out there has overcome something in their life. They've solved some kind of a problem in their life that other people would actually pay to find out how they can solve that in their life. And now they're spreading that on the internet. And Antonio's figured out how to dress properly and how to present yourself as a man and how to be a man, and he spreads that message. He solved that problem in his own life, and now he's helping other people do it.
He had a passion. Before he started doing that, he took his passion, like we talked about, of design, clothes, looking nice, dressing up, and he's created a business out of it.
Absolutely. We've been talking about a couple of things. Number 1, finding out what you love to do, and then doing that, and then also figuring out what problems you've solved in your own life that you can solve for other people. Like Coach Chris, he's figured out how to travel for 10 cents on the dollar. Now, I'm going to tell you, I love traveling, I love eating, I love all those things in life. I would go and pay to find out how I can save 90% on that. Now, whatever you pay for Coach Chris's product, it's going to save you way more than what you pay for it, because he's solving a problem.
He does more than just that, believe it or not, because he retired at 52 from the corporate world. And I don't know what his retirement is, but he had to keep his costs down. But he also works in the clubs in Las Vegas and a little here and around the United States as a comedian. I don't know if you picked that up.
I did pick it up. So many of these guests do a lot of different things in their life, but 4 of them are solving people's problems on the internet. So for all of you budding solopreneurs out there,
yes,
what in your life have you solved? What problem did you overcome that you could package that up, that's a passion for you, and that you could take that message and help other people overcome those same problems? Now let's look at a couple of themes through all 5 of these people they interviewed in this last week. And the first theme starts off with Antonio, where he spoke about how you got to take action. And then I kind of link that to Joshua, who said you got to just start. And then that jumps to Erin, who said there's no time like the present to get going. And then jump to Darren, who spoke about having focus. And then finally down to Coach Chris, who said, you got to live a dream. So this is a common theme through there about taking action, getting started. Now is the time to focus on your dreams. And then a couple of other commonalities through everyone. Joshua spoke about sharpening the saw, and Darren spoke about taking care of you first. And Bill, we got to actually get you on board with that whole thing of getting rest and relaxing.
I still have exercise. You notice my weight is good. I've actually, one of my shortfalls is a lack of sleep. I mean, it's a characteristic. I was an infantry officer in Ranger School, Special Operations, and it's honestly the habits of not sleeping.
So sharpening the saw and taking care of yourself was a theme this week, and it's really, really important. And then one more theme that came out is where Aaron said that you've got to live life and tie that into adventure. And Coach Chris spoke about it's not the years in your life, but the life in your years. So it's the adventure, the experiences. Is what are you putting into your life and how are you creating that? And then finally, there are a couple of repeat themes that came from previous weeks and previous interviews where Joshua spoke about building momentum. And we've spoken about that on previous podcasts about starting small, getting going, getting the success cycle and the momentum cycle working for you. Antonio spoke about never being afraid of making mistakes. Previous calls or previous weeks, we've spoken about testing small, making small mistakes, failing your way to success. And then Coach Chris spoke about don't give up. And that's been a common theme. Every single week, people have spoken about that, don't give up. So what's really exciting for the listeners here is it should be a case of, you know what? These people talk about the same things every single week. So there's not 1,000 things that I have to master to be a solopreneur, to be an entrepreneur, to be successful. It's not 1,000 things. There's just a handful of things. And these common themes are starting to come through in these shows. It's like, okay, I just need to master the way these people think, their mindset, and it's not a ton of stuff. It's a small handful of stuff.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, and that's what this show is doing. Every time we interview somebody, we pick up these little bits and jewels, and there might be a little trick. Like I learned a trick this week on how we come up on the podcast. We are starting to rank relatively high right now on some of the search engines and shows for podcasts. Pretty amazing, but we still have a long way to go.
Absolutely. So why don't we kick off? Why don't you tell us about Darren Drake, who was the first person interviewed on Monday. Tell us a little bit about him, then I can analyze what he said.
Since I did all the talking and the post-production, I should go in and talk about Darren. Darren's a nice guy. He, what brought to my attention is here's a guy who married his sweetheart girlfriend. I think they met in 3rd grade. They got married, senior in high school or whatever, right towards the end. He went in the Army and served. Yeah, still married, been married a long time. He's got grown-up kids. He's done careers, and he's still doing some of those careers. He's got multiple sources of income, and he's building a business. But what's really neat is he lives in a town of about 3,000 or 4,000 people where they have a mini Walmart. So because of the internet, he can actually start this business that reaches out across the world. So this technology is allowing people to live in their little hometown and still have communications with people everywhere. And he loves his hometown. He loves to go out in his cabin. He loves to talk to people and work. So he is really, of the people I talk to, you can tell that he has a happy life. Is that a good word for it? He's content. He's content, but he's still driving hard.
I think a happy life is a great way to describe things because ultimately happiness is the ultimate currency.
So I would say he wins the happiness award this week. If I had to pick one, you know what I'm saying? Is just things are going well for him. Everyone has challenges. And maybe I don't know all his challenges, but he came across as life is good.
So I'm going to jump in and analyze some of what he said here. And his favorite quote we spoke about, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them, from Albert Einstein. And this takes me to, it's so important to grow. It's so important to constantly learn. So you've got to consider where are you. So think of two things, the size of you versus the size of your problems. And again, I'm going to put that word problems in inverted commas because they're not really problems, they're just situations. But just understand that. Let's just say, for argument's sake, the listeners out there on average are 5 out of 10 on their happiness, contentment, wealth, everything they want to create in their life. They are 5 out of 10 person. and they come across a size 6 or 7 situation in their life. They can't deal with that situation. Now, if you grow, if you learn, if you expand who you are, and you become a size 8 out of 10 person, now all of a sudden a size 7 situation is something you can pretty easily handle. So it's so important to grow who you are, become more skilled, more confident, more capable of dealing with life. So become an 8, 9, 10 out of 10 person, and then all those 2, 3, 4 out of 5 situations in life are a breeze.
Sounds like good advice. So that was Monday. That was the show. That was the first show of the week. So driving on, one last thing too, and mention, he's a deputy coroner, and plus is also a sworn deputy sheriff. He talked a little bit about post-traumatic stress. He has to deal with post-traumatic stress, not so much himself because he's worked through it, but with the people he's in contact with, because of the life-changing circumstances that have occurred to those people who he has in contact with as a deputy coroner. So he talked a little bit about going out and talking to people to help them through the hard times, but he somehow handles it mentally, the issues. That's why I'm saying he's really balanced in his family. He seems very happy. He takes his time out. That's why I won the Happiness Award. Yet he deals with some very difficult circumstances in his other job.
He could do that because his approach is you've got to take care of you first. And the analogy there is when you get on a flight and the attendant gives a little safety briefing, the first thing they tell you is in the case of loss of oxygen, the oxygen mask is going to drop down. Put your own mask on first before you help others. So you've got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people.
Right. You always take care of yourself, because you fall apart, somebody's going to take care of you, and that's one of our common things, common things you have to do. We should write these down and just make a list, give them out to people.
Absolutely. So tell us about Aaron.
Okay, Aaron Hefflet. See, Aaron, that's a Bohemian name from Germany. It's a unique name. Aaron grew up with a lot of influence from her grandparents. Her grandfather was a career Army officer doing civil military operations in the neatest of times, I think 40s and 50s after World War II, where they were going around the world with small groups and really blending in with the culture for our military, starting the early studies. That's a program that I was in my last 5 or so years in the military, civil military operations, focusing on culture of foreign countries. So I had a tie-in with Erin, and I met Erin because she came to me trying to get into the human train team system. She has a background of working for non-governmental agencies, those are called NGOs, a lot of time in North Africa, around Europe, and in third world nations. She's been hired by both government agencies as well as private sector agencies trying to establish in those areas. Harley Davidson, she worked for a Harley Davidson franchise organization selling in North Africa. And if you can imagine the challenges they had, because BMW is the motorcycle of choice in North Africa and all those countries because of their relationship with the Germans and the relationship with the French and Europeans. So now we're trying to put an American product in. So she talked about her challenges as a woman, things she had to do, working with different organizations. And that's what I remember from Erin, that she's very outward going. She loves adventure, which I do too. I like going out forward, but I also, at a time in my life where I like to come back to my family and be with my family. That's one of the things about this business of going forward in these third world nations, whether it's private or public or the government agencies, doing aid or whatever you might be doing, monitoring elections. Those people go forward, you're without family, and there is risk involved. So that's Erin. What did you pull from Erin?
Very interesting life, and I can relate to her situation she was dealing with in North Africa because I spent 4 years in the Middle East. But here's what I really pulled out of what she said. She said, there's no time like the present to begin your journey. And that's the theme this week, where Antonio said, take action, and Joshua said, just start. So that's a common theme here. When you got to jump, you got to get going. And that's going to tie in with her favorite book that she spoke about, which was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And she described there that Viktor was in the concentration camps. And for me, the theme of that book is that every single liberty you have could be taken away from you except the decisions on the thoughts you have. No one can control your thoughts except you. So if your thoughts are based on the fact that I can get going, I can start, I can make some mistakes and overcome them, I can get going. Only you can control those thoughts.
Good. I can't add really anything to that. Erin is at a time in her life where she can still be adventurous. She's sort of making some decisions. And one thing I can say, she talked about how she ended up in New York where she's working now. A lot of people in her line of business, when they're not in overseas, we're around Washington, D.C. We're just around D.C. So she was in D.C. working, has gone up to New York because of her boyfriend, her significant other.
Right.
So, other influences change what you start doing. So you start having, you have a family and things change, don't they?
Things change, and that's one of the themes of your show is people's transitions and how they move through life. And that's why we're here sharing information that's going to help people make those transitions.
We're at all different ages. So,
Absolutely.
Antonio Centeno, I love this interview. Real men, real style.
I like that idea because I definitely need a little bit of help on the style side.
I think when we come to Reno, we go to heck in a handbag on style, unless you like cowboy. It's cowboy, it's cowboy hippie. It's a blend of cowboy hippie and leisure. That's what we are.
I have advanced. I have advanced because 5 years ago I used to be jeans with sneakers. Now I'm at least jeans with a nice pair of leather shoes.
Because of the real estate, the construction, all that, when I wasn't doing the civil military work, it was always a tie. Sometimes Levi's and a tie. That was my informal. So we're pretty informal here. We could definitely do some style. And actually, in the real estate industry, which I'm hooked into with my family, there's a certain level of dress that's required. You can get away with it. You just really have to know your client because they expect something of you. Expect you to have a certain look.
Exactly. So Antonio has solved a problem in his life on how to be stylish, how to be a real man, and he's spreading that message out there. And his favorite quote there says, "The only man who never makes mistakes is the man who never does anything." And that's from Teddy Roosevelt. And that kind of ties in with his bluff, which is just start today, just get going, just get in the game, guys. Like if you sit on the sidelines and just look at all the reasons why things are not going to work for you, this is what I learned. Losers look at a situation and figure out why it won't work. Mediocre people will look at a situation and they'll say, okay, well, I'll give it a try and see if it works. And winners look at a situation and they figure out, how do I make it work? So get in the game, get started, don't be afraid. Approach everything with the mindset of, how am I going to make this work?
That's the way to do it. Sounds good. Sounds really good. So driving on, we got Antonio, and then today, wrapping up yesterday, Coach Chris Klesch, Lifestyle. Interviewing Coach Chris, he is a fascinating guy. He is really fascinating, in amazingly good shape, healthy, strong. There's a picture up in Tahoe on top of the mountain with the skis. And that's what he's strong. He's in good shape. He looks really well. And he enjoys the simple things in life, but he also likes the adventure and the doing things in life. So he brought two messages, and I'll let Glen get more into the message that he brought, but it's about his transition from the corporate world at 52, 53, AT&T, 31 years. And even before that, I can tell he was very active. He was a Vietnam-era veteran. He actually directed a band. He has a degree in music, an advanced degree. But he took all his skill sets and he started using them with his own business at about 52. He's 66 or 67 now. He's also hooked in technology-wise well. He says he's not that well connected, but he is. He understands the internet, the web, the phones, and that's why he has like two businesses. One business is his travel business and speaking and leisure, and he's actually made a lot of money off of timeshares. He's bought a lot of timeshares secondhand over the years, like 40-some. He has about 22, 23 now. Travels a lot, goes in a lot of nice places, lives on both coasts. He also does a secondary business, which is his stand-up shows in Las Vegas and here, and he gets paid well for this. So he's enjoying life. I would say he's right up there in the life, leisure, enjoyment side for this week.
Absolutely. Coach Chris has solved the problem, and you can pay him so that you can save a lot of money. I mean, he speaks about traveling for 10 cents on the dollar. Just imagine how much money you could save. And I'm not sure how much his product is, but I think I would pay for it so that I could learn how to do that. So a couple of things that jumped out for me here, where he says the best things in life are not things. They're your health, your family, your friends, memories, and experiences. And for everyone out there, if you had to just imagine that you have fast forwarded to the end of your timeline, and you're right at the end of your life, and you've done everything you wanted to do on this world, and if you look back over your own life and figure out what are the meaningful things to you, I can guarantee you, you're not going to think it's the BMW I drove, the Mercedes I drove, the house I lived in, the suits that I wore, and all of those things. While those are great, he says the best things in life are not those things. The best things in life are those memories that you've created. The best things of life is your experiences that you've built with the people that mean a lot to you. So here's someone that lives with the attitude, it's not the years in your life, but the life in your years. But it's not about the bling stuff I have in life. It's not about those extrinsic things that are ultimately end of our life kind of meaningless.
Right.
But it's about the intrinsic relationships and living your dream. And then again, the common theme, a repeat here, where he says, never give up. And for the listeners out there, every single week you're going to hear this. Never give up.
Right, and he's 66, 67. He's putting that out to people. I think people in his generation, a little older, he's talking to them, seeing them. I think those are probably the people using his product, which is unique, by the way, because I don't think, we're looking at different ages and connectivity. People who are my son's age, 27, 28, are very connected. They all have iTunes accounts. I mean, they grew up in iTunes. And all LinkedIn, they talk in every different direction. They text, they don't call on the phone. And as you evolve into his generation, really they're still on the phone, not so much connected on the computers, and they're still meeting in smaller groups and using cash. And that's a big, broad base of people we have. And I'm going to talk about that in the conclusion today. That we interviewed people from all different ages, if you look at it, in different places in their timeline this week, all across the spectrum.
Absolutely, and they've all solved different kind of problems in life.
But there's commonalities too.
Absolutely. So finally, Joshua, tell us about Joshua.
You know, Joshua, I just interviewed him yesterday, and one of the things I always try to do is get the shows up as soon as possible. Most they're ever, it's a 10-day gap. If I can put them the next day or the day after, we'll get them up right away. And Joshua is the guy who is really in that transition with the family. He's got small kids. He's been working 10 or 12 years at a normal 8 to 10 job. He actually works swing shifts so he can do other things. He homeschools, and he has a side business, side hustle, I guess you'd call it. Very nice website, podcast, and he's building that company up. And what he is really is a coder when he's not doing his 8 to 9 job, which actually he works in a factory doing between shift work to get it set up, the night shift to get a boxing operation, and we make corrugated boxes, which is really a big business. I have a friend who owns a corrugated boxing company, and it's an extremely high capital business. So he's in that business, does his job really well, but he's working towards his transition to being the entrepreneur. But he's transitioning doing it. So he's in transition, going from his 8 to 5 where he's paying the bills into having to go ahead and transition into that job because he's got kids and just things to do. So he just can't jump all at once. So he's at a time in his life where he's working really hard. You know what I loved about what he said? Well, it wasn't. What was his? You know, let me look at Joshua. Joshua said, let's see. Just start with that. Make a plan. Start with the end in mind, and work backwards to the point where you need to start. So that's how he plans out. That's how he gets started. He makes a quick plan, but he starts with the end, and then he executes.
Well, here's my takeaway from Joshua. And again, the common theme through all 5 people this week is that get into motion, where he says they just start. And you just said it, Bill, they start with the end in mind. So there's a balance there where you see the final outcome. because everything's created twice. It's created once in your own mind, and then the second creation is in the physical reality. And we've spoken previously on the show about the sequence where you don't ready, aim, fire. You ready, fire, aim. So that ready part is looking at the vision, starting with the end in mind. The fire part is getting into motion. Just start. And then you can get feedback and figure out where you need to make adjustments. Because I believe Joshua said that one of the issues he faced was he was always ready, aim, 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 aim,
Right.
aim. And that's where people, they're just waiting for their ducks to line up. And the ducks don't line up until you get in motion. We've spoken about that before as well.
Right.
So it's so important to jump in and get going, whatever it is. Guys, you're listening here, you've got 4 people on the show who've solved a problem, and they can now help other people solve that same problem in their lives. Get in the game.
Right. You know, the other thing I forgot, I saw here, and I love this. He's the first person who said this, what he enjoys doing. And he's got this great family, working hard, doing all these different things, but Joshua enjoys sleep.
How much time do we have? How much time can I elaborate on that?
No, we have 5 minutes left in the show. We've got to close it up.
We've got 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to tell you.
Sleep is important.
This comes from Sharpen the Saw, which in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I believe it's the 7th habit, which is sharpen the saw. So I'll tell a quick little story. There are 2 wood choppers out there. The one guy arrives there at 6 a.m. and he starts cutting down trees with his axe. He works all day, 12 hours straight without taking a break until 6 p.m. and he cuts down a certain amount of trees. The second guy arrives at 8 o'clock, chops for an hour and a half, takes a 15-minute break, chops again until lunch, takes an hour for lunch, chops again, takes an afternoon break, chops until 5, and then he leaves. And he chops down 2 or 3 times the amount of trees that the guy that starts at 6 and finishes at 6. So this guy who's doing all this chopping is confusing activity with accomplishment. He gets really irate. Like, how come this other guy can cut down so many more trees than me? So he goes and talks to him and says, hey, what's going on? I work longer than you. I work harder than you. I'm putting in more effort than you. How come you chop down more trees? So his answer is it's pretty simple. I arrive here, I chop for a while, I take a break, and I sharpen my axe. Then I work a bit more, I take a break, I eat, I have a quick sleep, I relax, I sharpen my axe. I chop a little bit more, I sharpen my axe, and then I go home and I get a good night's rest and I sleep. And that's why I can chop down more trees than you. And that's so important in all of our lives, is don't confuse activity with accomplishment. It's only about results. So you've got to rest, you've got to rejuvenate, you've got to sharpen your saw because you can then get more done in less time.
That's good. And I agree. But, you know, there are times when you have to surge. And I had to surge this month getting these podcasts organized. And now, believe it or not, I've got it down to about 15 hours for the 5 shows for production, post-production. So that's a big improvement. The first shows were 8 hours, 8.5 hours to do all the things that had to be done to get a decent podcast out.
A repeat of what we've spoken about before is your biggest effort is going to be in the beginning.
Right.
And we gave the reference to the space shuttle, which burns 80% of its fuel just to clear the platform. And then the remaining 20% is to go all the way into orbit and back. So whenever we're starting something, we have to break the inertia. And we've got to change direction, or we've got to get into motion. Imagine you've got your car sitting out on the road there and you've got to push it. It takes a lot to get that car going. But once it's going, you can put way less effort into it. You don't have to push it as hard once it's actually moving.
Right. It always takes more initially, but you have to still balance it with sleep. One thing I'll add to your little story, my junior year at West Point, I got more sleep. That was the only year I really got good sleep, and those were my best grades by far. Prior to that, I was really pushing hard on Chinese. When I got rid of Chinese, I could actually get some sleep. So I relate to that, but one of the habits learned in the military is not sleep habits. In fact, it's long periods of time where people learn to take naps. You know, it's hard to explain. The Army does not do a good job, and they've done a lot of research in sleep. It's not going to do a good job on training people how to get the proper rest and sleep. They try, but there's times when you just have to push through and put the long hours. It's a characteristic of fighting a war. It's a skill set that you have to be able to do.
Well, I remember when I was on my officer's course, our regiment sergeant major came and gave us a little pep talk for one day. And he said to us, while you guys are busy doing this, whenever you get a chance to sit instead of standing, sit. Whenever you get a chance to lie down instead of sitting, lie down. Whenever you get a chance to sleep, sleep. Because you don't know when you're going to get a chance to rest again. So whenever you can, you better rest. And that ties in with that sharpening the saw. Rest when you can, so that you have the reserves to push through and do a 25-mile forced march or whatever it may be.
I'll tell you what, Rangers, they never rest. They really burn out fast. Rangers, with their direct action, Special Forces teaches exactly what you just said. We're going to run out of time, and my goal is to keep us in time.
Yes.
We're going to work a little bit better at the time management. I would like to finish with one thing, Glenn. I want to go into some of the other studies in more detail next week. But when I ask some of those technical questions, Mac or PC, what technology you like, I want to bring up one point that's really clear. 4 out of 5 people consistently are using the iPhone by interview. I don't know what that means out there, but they're really taught, no matter what their age is, they're connecting into the iPhone. 4 out of 5. That's the number one piece of technology that always pops up.
It's definitely changed the way the world works. I mean, we can run our business from anywhere as long as you've got a cell phone signal. You can be up skiing like Coach Chris, just pull out your phone and check your stats, send some emails, make some calls, and then do another run down the slopes. It's totally revolutionized the way the world works. However, all of you guys listening there, when you're sitting down around the table having dinner, put those damn things away.
You're going to have to come over for dinner, our girls. We actually do well. We don't play them too much. Hey, we got to close up today. Thanks, Glenn.
Bill, it's been a pleasure, and we look forward to wrapping up the incredible interviews you're going to do next week.
Good. That's done. Out of here.
Perfect.
I decided to turn it off. I want to try to get 26 to 28 minutes, and then if we come down to 26 minutes exactly, 27, I think we're getting better. We're going to get better and better, and I want to get more sleep. We'll go next level. I learned today, you know what the biggest thing that got me today is, what I did initially is I bagged like 15 shows, and then they never sucked. I had to go back and spend hours trying to fix them. You know the sound? Hours fixing those. And I got the new shows. Then I got the technique of the scheduling. This is the number one thing that's really helped my shows. I'm going to hire, as soon as I get some money, I'm going to hire someone, a virtual assistant, to manage this. I already know who I'm going to hire.
Yeah, I just won another $10 while we were talking.
God, you got to teach me how to do that. Look at this. There's my schedule. Look at Thursday. People did that yesterday while we were in the WordPress. People signed up to go on my show. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting more requirements. Is they have to have Skype, and they have to have a certain kind of headset or better. So it's easy on me, and they're better quality people. So see them sign up? There you are here. I think I manually put you in. But look at next week. I got some nice ones coming up.
Yeah, get Dr. Ted on your show. He's a really interesting guy. His family developed a system called BEST, which is bioenergetic synchronization technique. And they do, his family, his dad and his uncle, they've been in the seminar business, the training business, okay. And he's now got the #1 product on ClickBank.
Okay, I think I've seen them. Who else do you want me? Dr. Ted, what are the ones I need to go after that you sent me? You sent me about 3, didn't you?
Well, I sent you his information. The other guy has been in infomercials his whole life, and he said to me, man, he's too slammed this week, and he just can't get on it. So, but I sent you Dr. Ted's info. Shoot him an email and get him to. It
goes fast. I'll definitely hit Ted. I'm going to CC you on the email, and you've seen my login process, and you go on there and download it. It's definitely working. I mean, if I get down to 15 hours, if I could do 5 interviews in one day and have them all edited, ready to go for the week, I'm done. That means I haven't been able to work on the website. I haven't been working on the product or monetization at all. I have to do.
So how long did we speak in total on now when we did this?
The recorder had almost exactly 30 minutes.
Okay, and you're probably going to cut about 4 minutes out of that.
I don't think I'm going to cut that much. I just did one yesterday. I probably cut 30 minutes, 30 seconds out. That's good.
Now, and we don't have a clock, because I mean we could roughly say, okay, we're going to intro for this long, X amount of time on each person, and extra for so long, and then that will help with your.
Just so you know, I do that. You saw my page, my sheet that I do. Let me show you. First of all, I can look here and see what the time is. I need to put a clock. You know what I need to do is get a big clock and start it, and then we know where we go from how much we spend on each point. I think we'll just get better and better at this, so you don't even have to think, because what you do is you anticipate what the next person's going to say. I can take that. I can correct that anticipation with the editing, post-production. But later on, I won't even have to do that because it'll just flow. Well, I got some advice from somebody that I started implementing about 2 weeks ago. Be more conversational with my first part. So this is the first evolution of more conversational. I have no old shows anymore, which is good. Everything's going to be a new show. I don't have to go back and fix stuff. So if you go on to here, Bluff, B-L-U-F, again, this is where I send people to. This is my play around site. The interview questions, the timeline questions. See this schedule? This is how I do the show. 15 to 18 minutes, and it's more about whatever they want to talk about, the Bluff questions, and I go into detail and tying it all together quickly. So I might cut a little of this back because we do get some conversation here. I don't want my shows going over 30 minutes. It kills me when I go 30 minutes. I went over 30 minutes every time this week.
Yeah, but you control that, so
I need to do better.
One of the things, and this is just an observation, is make the show more about the person you're interviewing, and you speak less, and then that's going to shorten your time.
I did that on one show, Antonio's. He spoke almost all, and that's true. Speak less. Now, John Lee Dumas talks a little bit about himself, talks stories. That's why I picked some of that up. But I think I'm going to go back on letting them talk more, and then since we're doing this wrap, we can really tie it together. I'll spend a little bit more time writing instead of speaking. Spend more time here. If I speak less, spend 30 minutes, I can spend more time doing the analysis and writing it out.
You want to stop that broadcast?
Oh, we're still on. Hey, we're live. You get to see behind the scenes. You know, that's one thing, just a word before you turn off, if you're a politician or anybody, always assume that you're being recorded. So, well, I don't think there's anything bad.
Well, I'm just thinking, what did I say in the last 5 minutes?
What did I say? I don't think it's anything bad.
No, I don't think so.
It's just, it's honest. You're getting the people who tune into this actually seeing what's going on behind the scenes. If you want to start this kind of business or add this business to your company, one thing I want to mention before we get off, and I thought about this, was it you who came up with the concept of what the hair salon should do?
Yeah, we spoke about that in the pre-show.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, you can do that right now, but no hair salon, no entrepreneur is going to probably learn to do that. They're going to have to contract that out.
Yeah, but this is some basic stuff. This is while you're checking out your person. Mm-hmm. And for those that didn't hear what we said before, is the concept of using internet marketing to boost an existing business.
Right.
And the concept was you have a hair salon, for example, and you look at your appointment schedule, and for the next 2 days you've got 20 open slots. Now, what you could do as a business owner in that case is whenever a client checks out, while they're paying, you just say, hey, what's your email address? You capture that email address, right. And then you got a simple little system that says this person with this email address came in on this day and they had the following treatment. It could be a highlight, it could be a curl, it could be a perm, or whatever it is. And now you get to the case of, I've got these 20 open chairs for the next 2 days. You just go into that database, you create an email that says, Dear Jill, thank you for coming in on the 12th of August for a perm. You are one of our valued customers, and as a valued customer, we're giving you a 20% discount valid for the next 48 hours. If you call the next 48 hours, make a booking, you get a 20% discount. Thank you for your business, blah, blah, blah. It costs you nothing to capture that email, and it costs you nothing to send that email out, except a little bit of a cost for an email server thing, $20-30 a month. And now you can fill up some chairs that would be totally empty. Now, that's a very basic thing that I believe any business owner can do and manage. There's no massive technology involved in that.
Well, you have to know WordPress.
No, for that you don't even need to know WordPress. All you need to do is to put their email into a email management system.
Right.
A GetResponse, Aweber,
right.
Constant Contact, any of those things. You're going to enter the email into that, and then you can just go in and create a broadcast. You type an email like you would type an email to your friend, and you've got certain fields that it's going to fill in for you, and boom, you send it off.
That's not a bad idea. You're going to have somebody coach you through that and get to that point. I understand what you said there. I didn't before. I was thinking of a more broad-based, more complex system.
Absolutely. Simple.
Yeah, and that's what it has to be. If you own your own business, and you're doing a million things, and you don't have a class in code or websites, you have to have a simple system to start.
Well, think how much money you're leaving on the table by not implementing this. So is it worth it to you for someone to come in and pay them $500 to set that up for you?
Do you know anybody who does that in this town? I don't.
Other than you or me, I don't really know anyone.
Well, we don't do it yet. We're going to do that.
Well, we do it ourselves. So hey,
We
someone
do it
paid me
ourselves,
$500 to go help their business. I'll do it.
Yeah, I guess so. Set it up and get it running. I've never. That's a good little skill set, and just especially work with every salon, restaurant. Somewhat too. You can put deals in restaurants when he gets low, just like a travel agency.
Anything where you've got people coming through your doors, you can use an email marketing system to boost your business. Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
You know, last night there was a gentleman, I think it was Darren, who was trying to teach people other businesses like we're doing. He's going out and trying to help people with the social media. This isn't quite social media, but it's sort of in between that social media and connecting and doing and broadcasting.
I think that this is way more powerful than, and this is just my personal opinion, way more powerful than anything else out there. More powerful than social media, more powerful than pay-per-click, more powerful than SEO, because you have 100% control over it. Facebook could change their rules tomorrow and your social media goes out. Google changes their algorithm tomorrow and you disappear off their page. Whereas those emails that you have, they're yours.
Right.
No one can take that away from you.
Current and keep their people in the contacts accurate. That's true. And I'll just add one last thing. That's why we use WordPress for our platform to build off of and build from there. Very good, Glenn. Well, that's enough. We had, if anybody watches this in full, you've got a lot to watch or listen to in the background. I think people actually just turn on the computer and listen to this as they work. So take care. Let me sign off here. In fact, we'll smile as we sign off. There's Glen and Bill. I need a haircut today, more stylish. I'm going to dress up.
I need a haircut as well.
I'm going to dress up more. You're going to see me dressing a little more because my wife wants me to be more presentable.
I'm not going to dress up more. It's T-shirts.
I dressed up last night. I looked like Fichardt last night. All right, take care.